The other day, I walked into one of my school's physics classrooms and watched as my teacher fidgeted with her computer, acting as if it was her first time using it, as always. "We are learning about magnetism today," she yelled. "Aren't you guys excited to learn about the 3 different hand rules?" No, not particularly, but I mean, the day could be worse. Look outside, the sky is blue, the birds are chirping, and no test today. What a first world miracle. Everything almost seemed perfect. Perfect. Until Bob walked into the room. Ugh, I hate Bob. He is so stupid. He has no sense of social boundaries, no logical reasoning, and talking to him is like talking to a wall and expecting a logical and reasonable response. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, parents, students, and of course, my fellow speakers. My name is Vanessa, and I am honored to be here today to speak to you why we should all appreciate the so-called stupid people in our lives. Now, before anyone raises an eyebrow, I'd first like to clarify what I mean by the term stupidity. I have noticed that recently, the word stupid has almost become a catch-all term for anything with a negative connotation. Do they talk too much? Oh, stupid. Are they annoying? Oh, stupid. Do they fail to follow social norms? Stupid. Did Bob really just put salt and pepper into his coffee? Yikes, that is stupid. After all, in today's speech, the definition of stupidity would be people with perspectives diverging from our own. Imagine that. Now, if you're skeptical about this definition so far, let me delve deeper into what this really means and ultimately why it truly matters. We all have our own Bobs in our lives. It could be a colleague who empathetically disagrees with your idea, a peer who constantly questions your decisions, a mentor whose ideas you do not agree with, that truck driver back there who just turned left on the right-hand lane, and even your younger brother who is currently throwing a temper tantrum because someone ate the last gummy worm. However, have we ever considered the possibility that we are all stupid people to those who don't see our ways? How can we relieve these internal conflicts, foster self-reflection and growth, and one day look at things with more openness and kindness? So let's go back to Bob, shall we? Aw, there he is. Now, can anyone tell me why he is currently challenging Billy to a push-ups contest on the physics classroom floor? This is exactly what I mean. He is so stupid, such a hassle to work with, and is consumed by immense social blindness. But to what extent is Bob truly as unbearable as we think he is? Many people have heard of the idea of confirmation bias. When our brains believe in a reality, we actively search for evidence that confirms it while rejecting those that contradict it. The issue is that we eventually become so consumed by our own realities that we fail to listen to others genuinely. We automatically dismiss Bob's ideas as worthless, but what if they aren't? What if Bob is actually some super secret genius with so much wisdom and insight to impart to this world, yet it gets lost because we quickly dismiss them before he even gets a chance to proclaim his thoughts? After all, Bob could really just be living his life thinking about magnetism, yet to us, he is someone who has nothing going on in his brain. We often underestimate the impacts of our heads when it comes to the perception of other people. Could we have been a little more curious about what Bob had to say? If we were in Bob's shoes right now, would we really act any differently? Of course, I also know some people who, when they walk into the room, I roll my eyes, sigh, and wait for the awesome, brilliant, and amazing things they have in-house for me today. However, I eventually recognized that when we possess this form of tension within ourselves, we are all stressed and frustrated, yet it barely seems to affect Bob. Sure, Bob could look at me and think, why is Vanessa acting all strange today? However, at the end of the day, it is still only Vanessa, consumed in her own little situations, tired, stressed, and frustrated with everything around her. So I urge you guys to recognize the impact that stereotyping has on our perception of other people, not just to understand Bob, but also to relieve our own internal conflicts. Challenge the beliefs that others are constantly pulling you down. Refuse to let your emotions take over, and try to pinpoint any genuine flaws in a relationship, if there even is any. Try your hardest to listen, not just to Bob, but also to the context and your own thoughts about him. So, why should we appreciate the Bobs in our lives? Believe it or not, the traits that we dislike in other people are actually parts of ourselves that we condemn. We unintentionally set up this vision of this perfect human in our brains, and when other people fail to reach that image, we automatically label them as stupid. But to what extent can we fulfill that perfect image? How do we know that the people we think are stupid don't think that we are stupid? Well, we don't, but that is exactly where Bob comes in. Bob serves as a role model, acting as someone we do not want to become. You might frequently see that pinpointing the flaws in other people are easier than appreciating their virtues. So, do that with Bob. Recognize the flaws in Bob as use them as guidelines as to someone you do not want to become, working your way towards becoming that perfect person. Yes, seek the good in Bob, but also learn from his shortcomings. Only once we develop this resilience can we truly become the best version of ourselves. Moreover, Bob actually teaches us invaluable lessons in communication. Through conversing with Bob, we may oftentimes encounter, let's say challenges. However, there won't just be one Bob in our lives. There will be plenty of Bobs in our lives. So use our interactions with this particular Bob to hone our communication skills, making us into more articulate, enhanced, and intricate speakers. Voila! Suddenly, in the future, everyone can understand what you are saying because of how Bob has trained you. Thank you so much, Bob. This process also lays the groundwork for healthier and more fulfilling relationships in the future. Now, I would like to take this last bit of time in my speech to discuss the reason why I chose the definition of stupidity today to be a difference in opinions. Now, we all live in our own worlds. And with that, it is oftentimes difficult to recognize that every single person's ideas of that perfect image is different. We judge people based on our past experiences and environment, and when other people act differently than how we would, we label them as stupid. But to what extent are they actually stupid? We also like to hang around the people who think similarly to us because it seems to lead to less conflicts. But at the end of the day, it farther isolates us into these echo chambers of sameness. Remember when I told you earlier on that Bob loves to add salt and sugar into his coffee? But what if I told you now that this was actually a childhood drink that his mom used to make for him when he was young and before he went to school? Would that change anything? Would that make Bob seem less stupid? So the next time you encounter someone with seemingly outlandish ideas, maybe they are not stupid. They are simply expressing the lessons ingrained from their upbringing, their ideas, and their worldview. Of course, I am definitely not forcing anyone to be on good terms with everybody in this room, because quite frankly, that is impossible, and I'm sure that no one in this room can do it. But recognize that every single person has different traits and characteristics. Only once we embrace this diversity can we work our way towards a better and more understanding world as a society. So, to conclude this speech today, I would like to say that everyone is stupid in their own ways. Of course we are, because how boring would this world be if we are all perfect? But think about that, Bob. If you were to take anything away from this speech today, try to learn from Bob, step into his shoes, and pinpoint the real issues in our relationships. Everyone is a collage of different traits and characteristics. So, let's embrace that all together. Thank you.